And for more on the possible motives behind the Facebook whistleblower, we turn to Ed Martin, president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles and the publisher of ProAmericaReport.com. Thanks for joining us today, Ed.
Great to be with you, Natasha. Thank you.
Now, there are some theories circulating out there that Frances Haugen isn't exactly the angel that she's claiming to be. Again, these are just claims being made at this point. But what are your thoughts about her working with a PR firm that has ties to the Democratic Party?
Well, it's not so much ties to the Democratic Party, ties to Obama and to the Obama insider team. You know, Bill Burton is the guy who we're talking about. He's one of the insider Obama, hacks that does this stuff for a living. But look, I don't care about people's intentions or what's in their hearts or minds. I care about describing what happened. We had the Wall Street Journal and 60 Minutes make this woman into a saint. And by the time 2 days later, she's in front of the Senate, you have the Senate going through a kabuki theater where they're talking as if they're really fighting and really doing something. And then all the solutions offered are the ones that the big tech giants want most. They can control more speech and make more money. There's no breaking up. I have one quick solution. Facebook lied to the public about Instagram and Facebook. That's what it sounds like. Break them up. Instagram should be spun off. Facebook should go the other way. Let's do something that actually changes the power dynamic. So the whole thing was theater. It was done not just by Bill Burton and the Obama people. The Biden people needed to change the conversation into something that they think is better for the public. So it's the worst of the swamp, and I think the American people need to see through it, but I fear they won't because they won't be able to see it on regular media.
And as it is, many conservatives complain about being censored, and some are speculating more oversight will only tighten what people can see on the platform, meaning less conservative content. Do you think that that's a possibility?
It has to be true. The only liberals that are remotely censored by Facebook are ones that don't want the vaccine. They happen to be African American NBA players. They get, otherwise it's all conservatives. So yeah, look, what big tech is most afraid of is being broken up, and so they'll go to bed with the government, with big government, these senators, because they know how to buy them and control them. And they don't mind if they say, if Blumenthal says, hey, you got to stop. Remember, this whistleblower said what got her to the point of whistleblowing was one of her friends got so into Facebook, he became a right winger. Might have been a Trump voter. That's the whole reason to be here. So what the Senate is going to say is, we'll tell you what free speech is, and then Facebook will say, oh, good, that's what we'll enforce that, no problem. And it won't be conservatives, libertarians, outside-the-box thinkers. It'll be all what the narrative machine, what big government, big tech, and big media want to feed us and want us to hear. It's very scary.
And if Facebook is regulated, how do we know it won't be the same thing like with the tobacco companies and big pharma, where the law is written actually protect their interests?
Well, we don't, except that what we can predict is what this whistleblower said she thought was smart, which is redo 230 so that Facebook would have to regulate speech according to what? What Blumenthal, and the woman even admitted, she said, I would like to leave Harvard Business School, work for a few years at a tech giant, and then go into this new regulatory agency. It's like Elizabeth Warren's dream scenario with all the economic stuff. So what we know is it will be protecting Facebook. Why? Because the same idiots that are sitting across the senators saying all this admit there's more lobbyists for Facebook and Google than anybody else up there on Capitol Hill. And money talks and senators walk. And so, again, we should be able to predict that. And the public has to demand something different than this kabuki theater that we saw.
And we know that Facebook is a private company, but can it truly be a free speech platform if the so-called misinformation police, which is what Haugen essentially was at Facebook, are deciding what's true and not true? Shouldn't we be concerned if anything a conservative says is defined as hate speech when it's just the opposite of their narrative?
Yeah, this is the exciting thing about Natasha living at this time is all the models have gone out the window, right? The libertarians want to say, oh, it's a private business, leave it alone. It's too much power. Facebook and Google and YouTube are dominating our lives, our families, our kids. We have to do something different than the old model. Remember, antitrust law was created at the time of the trusts, the energy trust, the oil trust, because they had no theory before that to think about how to do it. So free speech has to trump Zuckerberg's bucks, and we have to be willing to think creatively about what that means. And so you're exactly right. You know, the fear should be that anyone controls our speech, but what the reality is that you have a big government that is dictating and being dictated to. They're in bed together by big tech. And so, by the way, yesterday or 2 days ago, when Merrick Garland says parents may get out of hand at school boards, or better said, the school board administration says, tell us to stop them, and he puts the FBI on the case. That's the beginning. I can guarantee you Facebook is looking and saying, well, people that say bad things about school board meetings, we better throttle them back because that's what big government wants. It's really totalitarianism, and it's happening in front of our eyes.
Well, Ed Martin, we always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Natasha.
Well, could there be a new conflict of interest in the classroom? We'll discuss with our 360 panel right after the break.